everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you don't already know, my name is Elle Ramaila, and on this channel it's all about enriching yourself, contributing, and also growing. So I thought to myself, maybe now is a perfect time to unpack a little more about who I am. And I actually have a daughter who is 4 years old, but as you can see from the title of this video, it's all about my birth story and the experience that I went through. Now, I feel like it is so aligned to speak about it today of all days because I recently just donated blood, and I remember there was a time in my life where I really needed blood, and unexpectedly so, this is what happened. So I was pregnant in the year 2018 going into 2019 with my first child, and being a new mom, I feel like it was all about Google. I needed to know everything and feel like I had control of my life because being so young, the things that go through your mind when you are pregnant is more related to, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think? How much weight am I gonna gain? I feel like you don't even have to be a young mom to even think about the concept of weight gain, but also the question, am I ready, starts popping in your mind, and you literally spend all your time just Googling every answer that you have or every question that you have, looking at every YouTube video, like how I used to watch YouTube videos to see how they can help me. Basically, you go on this never-ending journey of just seeking answers, but not understanding that whatever child is going to be birthed by you is going to be so unique that no amount of research will equip you for what is to come, because this is a new creation from God. You don't know what gift they're going to give you. You don't know how much value they're going to add in your life. So it is a bit of a defense mechanism that I feel like us as moms want to do because we feel like we want to control the situation that's at hand. But basically, I was supposed to give birth in August of 2018. And going through my gynae visits, I was told that the birth date will be on the 4th of August 2018. And I feel like those dates aren't always that accurate, but in my mind, I planned ahead of time, and that is the date that I was preparing for. I made sure that my hospital bag was packed. I made sure that I had all the clothes that I needed. I made sure that I had all the clothes that my daughter would need. And eventually I had a birth plan as to mentally preparing to push, mentally preparing to feel the pains. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who was also pregnant around the same time I was pregnant. So when she gave birth around March, or was it April? Hey, she might have me for this, but I think it's May. Let's go with me. When she gave birth, all I wanted to know is, how was the experience? Was it painful? Like, can you go to the toilet? Like, what is happening? Like, I was trying to mentally prepare myself for the pain that was to come. So talking to her kind of eased my nerves, kind of eased the way I was feeling about that whole process because it was so new to me. And when she told me that she was able to get through it, and obviously her son was born and she was the happiest person ever, I just channeled the happiness more than I channeled the pain. I was so ready to push, and I was so ready for the month of August to come and for me to deliver my baby. So the week before the 4th of August, I actually ballooned into a size that I had never seen. Like, going back to my pregnancy, I was never really heavily pregnant until the last 2 weeks of my pregnancy. And I think it's because of just my body structure and just working out in the beginning of my pregnancy. I didn't gain as much weight, and I was also going through some emotional struggles with having not passed my first attempt at postgraduate. So I was really eating but struggling to pick up weight because stress is also like a combat factor to me gaining weight. But by the time I was 7 months pregnant, I still didn't look like I was pregnant. My doctor advised me to stop working out, and I continued making sure that I was taking my supplements and trying to gain weight as much as possible. Up until the very last week or 2 weeks of my pregnancy, like I was normally pregnant. I feel like I was a petite size. I was normal. And then a watermelon just like happened to my stomach, and I just exploded into this big human being. And leading up to you about to deliver, or you approaching your delivery date, you kind of have so much emotional turmoil going on through you. Like, those questions that you initially had about, am I ready? Can I do this? Start becoming louder. And honestly, just by praying, talking to my friend who had just given birth, also talking to my partner about it, I was able to kind of, calm down a bit, but it still doesn't take away the fact that you're going to be so anxious when the time comes and you're going to try and make everything perfect. Like, I tried to redirect all my direction to getting everything else prepared, but also working on myself mentally. Yeah, I was supposed to give birth was actually 10 months after I had conceived. So those 3 days leading up to that final day, I wanted this child out of me. Like, I could feel her moving. Like, I could feel there was a whole human moving inside of me, kicking at me, toggling inside of me, and it is the most uncomfortable feeling. Like, I just felt like I was being ripped into so many pieces. I didn't have a lot of body weight to support the way my stomach stretched out, so it was so painful leading up to those last couple of days. But the day actually came, and it was the 4th of August, and what happened is I woke up in the middle of the night and I just felt like something is happening. Like, I don't know what contractions are supposed to feel like. I've Googled them, I've asked about them, but it didn't come the way I thought. I just knew something was happening, but there was no pain. And so I went to the bathroom, I checked down there, and there was like a funny color when I was wiping, and I was like, okay, something is happening, let me just go to the doctor. And so I went to the hospital. Now keep in mind, this is 4 a.m. and I go to the hospital and they ask me the generic questions: how far along are you, when is your expected delivery date, and I confirm that it's actually today. And they take me to the monitoring room and they monitor me. And as they're monitoring me, they were like, you know what, it is your actual delivery date, so I think it's best that after the monitoring, it might be best to actually see what's happening, because of the fact that I am at my delivery date and it can't go any further because it's already 10 months into the pregnancy. Laying there, and we have all these monitors around your stomach, and they look at the baby's heart rate. And so they tell me that the baby's heart rate is a bit low, so I should drink a cup of coffee with sugar. Usually when you're pregnant, you don't drink coffee throughout the term of your pregnancy. That's not something that I had, but I feel like that day they wanted to ensure that Zoe's heart rate would go up a bit because it looked very low. And after I had the cup of coffee, nothing happened. It was approaching breakfast time at the hospital, and it was 7 o'clock, in the morning. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, they were like, let's just serve breakfast and see if there would be a change in your daughter's heart rate. And so I had a full-on breakfast. It was eggs, it was bacon, it was bread, it was jam, it was a breakfast, and I had it, and I was so full, and I was happy. And 30 minutes later, they came to check the baby's heart rate, and it was still low. And now the doctor was getting a bit nervous. Now keep in mind, my birth plan resulted in me, or my birth plan was all about me pushing. So for the past couple of months in my mind, I had already kind of pictured how I'd start pushing, how I'd start, going through the motions and the pains. But honestly, nothing was happening. Like, I'm not sure till this day how contractions are supposed to feel, but I mean, something was happening, but I don't know what was happening. So the doctor came 30 minutes in, checked the baby's heart rate, and he started panicking. And he started saying things like, you know what, I feel like maybe this could result in a C-section, but I'm not too sure. Let's just give it another 15 minutes. And at this point, I'm like, C-section? This is not a part of the plan. I haven't Googled C-section. What do you mean? I've Googled everything, not a C-section. Like, pushing, yes. How to position myself, yes. How to scream, yes. How to hold my legs, yes. But C-section. So now, the doctor comes back after 15 minutes and he literally says, listen, I've monitored, I've gone through the papers, and as you can see, that line is supposed to be spiking up and down. You've had coffee, you've had breakfast, and nothing is happening. So I feel like I'm going to make the decision and you are going to have a C-section. And I kid you not, my stomach just I became nar. Like, I just became like, no way. And the first superficial thing that you think about, honestly, is the scar. Am I going to have this massive scar? What is the pain going to be like? Like, I haven't gone through the detail of this thing, but the first thing was, oh my goodness, I'm going to have this scar across my stomach. Like, how superficial. I'm going to have massive surgery, but I'm thinking about a scar. And I just want to encourage you to tell you that it is okay to be thinking of those things, because as a mom, we are so invested in this miracle that we're about to bring into this earth. But we also have to think about, oh my gosh, when this miracle is here, how am I going to accept myself? How am I going to see myself? Because once you have a child, some things change. Like, there will not be evidence that you are a mom. I might not have the body of a person that just gave birth, but there is evidence that Zoe was within me because of the scar, and I shouldn't be ashamed of it. I shouldn't be saddened about it, but it is one of the first things that will come to your mind as to how am I going to be physically different. And that's what happened to me. But long story short, they told me that this emergency section would happen at around 1 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. And then eventually the doctor came back, I think 30 minutes later, and told me, you know what? I feel like we need to do an emergency C-section because the anesthetist is about to leave. She has other commitments. And so we have to move you now. And in my mind, I'm like, now, as in, like, now. Doctor's like, nurses, please prepare her. Let's go. And in my mind, I'm like, but what do you mean? Like, I'm going to push. And that's all I'm saying in my mind when the nurses are hurling me away to like the surgical room. And this is 2018, pre-COVID, right? This is when your partner can still come in with you. But those initial stages where they prep you, your partner is prepping themselves and they're not supposed to come in. And so when I went in there, all I could see was like nurses everywhere. There was like 7, 8 nurses walking around. The doctor is there. Everybody is in masks. Like, there's like surgical equipment around, and I am starting to panic. Like, this is when panic really starts hitting you, because I am alone and they undress you. You are stark naked. There are weapons of destruction next to you. And people are just walking, looking like we're about to slaughter her, you know, and I was stressed out of my mind. That was the first time where I felt genuine loneliness and genuine fear. Up until the moment my partner came in and I started just, you know, feeling a bit comfortable, but still as scared because of so many things that are happening. And so they gave me anesthesia and I couldn't feel my lower back. I couldn't feel my lower stomach to the very bottom, and they laid me down and the C-section was about to start. And my doctor, being the person that he was so comforting, trying to tell me that I'm going to give you the nicest scar. It's going to be a bikini scar. Nobody is going to see it. He was trying to distract me from everything that was happening. But when they're actually like cutting through you, there is like reflector lights so that they can see what they're doing. And there's like a metallic, you know, mirror kind of happening situation. So I could kind of see what's happening, and it wasn't looking pretty. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, like I am cut open, like I am literally open. And that made me feel so sick. I turned to the side and I was stressing so much. The doctor started pushing away, pressuring away, and it's not necessarily pain, but it is such an uncomfortable feeling because there is like pressure but no pain. Now, I don't know how best to explain that, but pressure without pain is exactly what was happening in that moment. And until there was that last pressure push, Zoe came out, and literally there was like a relief, but at the same time, I wasn't full of love when Zoe was like immediately born. Like, the doctors start singing happy birthday, the nurses sing happy birthday, and that literally brings you to like tears. You just crumble right there and then. I crumbled. I started getting teary. They presented Zoe to me and she wasn't opening her eyes. I was actually told this not so long ago that I had to say her name Zoe, and that's when she opened her eyes. And I was like, what? That happened? Like, it was so distracting. Like, you really don't take in any of those majestic moments when all of this is happening, because you are just thinking, I'm laid out on a table, close me up, like I need to leave, like did this really happen? You have questions going through your mind, and I'm one of those people that have like delayed reactions to situations. So all this was happening way too fast for me to process anything that was actually good that was happening in that moment. So they closed me up and they moved me to almost where I was going to recovery. And as I'm lying there, remember that time when I told you that I had a cup of coffee and then I had breakfast, I had bacon, I had eggs, I had bread? Well, if you're about to have major surgery, you're not supposed to eat food at all. Now, let me tell you why. There is things digesting in your stomach, but people are opening and moving your stomach. I don't need to 1 + 1. You can see 1 + 1 is 2. So in that moment, I started feeling like I want to hurl. Like there was that feeling that I need to hurl, but from my waist down, there is no feeling. Like I can't move anything down. But mentally, I can feel something wants to push, because the brain is connected. So I want to, and I try to tell the nurse, like, I'm not feeling well. And I start drooling all over the place. This nurse wipes me down, and then she actually gives me something in my drip, and the nausea starts coming down. And so they move me to recovery, and now I'm thinking I'm in the clear. Oh my gosh, this is happening. I'm still going through the questions. And then all of a sudden, as I'm sitting in recovery, it just felt like I was on a boat. Like I just started feeling like I'm drifting, but on a boat, and it was rocking, and I just don't understand why, but I was starting to go in and out of consciousness. And I just turned to my partner and just told him something isn't right. I don't know what's wrong, but something isn't right. And as he opens up the sheet, his face literally just goes into shock, and he runs out the room and he comes. So now when somebody's face goes into shock and runs out of a room, you kind of know like things aren't fine, And the nurses come, and for me, what I can recall from that moment is that I could feel like I'm screaming, but I couldn't hear myself. I just felt like I was drifting into this place, and all I could think of in that moment was, God, my child needs a mom. That's all I was thinking about. My child needs a mom. I didn't say Zoe, I just said, God, my child needs a mom. And I could see some light, but the voices of the nurses were going faint. My partner was faint. Like everything was just going away. And all I could think of, God, my daughter needs a mom, And I think there was a moment where I've genuinely not known a moment where you kind of face death head on, and you kind of, I don't know, the most important things don't flash in you. It's like a pain that transitions into peace. And in that moment, I just said a quick prayer, and all of a sudden, I could just hear voices coming back. It's like a volume was being turned down, and now a volume was being turned up. And now I could hear the nurses like scooping away the blood, giving each other directions. My partner telling me, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave me, don't leave me, you're gonna be fine, don't leave me. And I started crying in that moment, because I felt like a rebirth, or like a second chance, or like, did I really just almost see the hand of God in my life, like in the physical? Because I could never, and I can still never explain that feeling. But to kind of try and tell you, this is what I experienced in that moment. And I felt such a peace when it was happening, but after it was happening, when like my physical was coming back, I felt pain everywhere. Like every part of my body was aching, and I was losing so much blood because I was actually hemorrhaging. And so the nurses had to try to stabilize the situation, which they managed to do. Obviously, I'm sitting here, and they were able to stabilize the situation. And I was like, what was I doing having a child? I was like, what was I doing? I think in moments of like stressful situations, I end up making jokes in my mind, but in that moment, that's all I could think about. Like, what was I doing, you know? And I was blessed enough, my family came and they saw me, but I was so pale. Like, I had lost so much blood, and the doctor actually did tell me that I did need a blood transfusion. And that was like around 2 p.m. because I had just given, not 2 p.m., like 11:30, because I gave birth at around 10, and then 11:30, all of that was happening, and I needed blood, and they told me that it was going to come that evening, but it actually didn't. And so they gave me iron tablets, and the next day they gave me a blood transfusion. And now is the importance to highlight the fact that being a blood donor is potentially saving somebody else's mom, saving a daughter, saving a sister, saving saving a friend, you know. And I am so thankful that eventually I did get my blood transfusion. But doing this recently, donating blood, reminded me of the fact that this is going to a good cause. This is actually helping somebody, and this is what my channel is about, right? Living a life of purpose and remembering that everything that you do, you might not think it is a big thing to donate blood, but in that moment when I really needed blood, to be there for my partner, to be there for my daughter, to be there for my family members, you know, I think about them, and I think about the time that we've spent together ever since, and how my perspective in life has changed because of that very moment. I am thankful that I was able to get an opportunity to get a blood transfusion. And I'd like to encourage you, if you haven't thought about donating blood, now is a good time to know that you can save a life. Genuinely save a life. But after that process, after my blood transfusion, I was able to heal. Very slow process with physiotherapy, but I was able to overcome that, and I was able to be there for my daughter after like a couple of days where I felt strong enough to carry her and to actually bond with her, and she's been a delight ever since. But my birth story doesn't have to be your birth story, right? It's all about knowing the fact that sometimes the plans that you have, my plan was to push, you know, but that's not what always happens. Your plan doesn't always come to fruition, you know. You don't always get what you plan for. God is in control. God is sitting on the throne, and he's the one that determines the outcome. And even though it could have been meant for evil, or bad things like that could have happened, God always turns every situation into good. That's why I will always give all the glory to him, because I know for a fact without his hand that day it was late, it was lit, you know. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story time, and that it was able to help you as a new mom, or a mom that is having lots of babies around, and whoever's thinking about also having kids. These are the things that may happen. These are the things that are a reality for so many people, that sometimes they don't even make it through that stage. But to know that through your pregnancy, prayer is always an amazing thing to be doing. Protecting yourself, protecting your energy. You are carrying life within you, making sure that you are taking care of yourself health-wise, that you are eating correctly, that you are taking your vitamins, that you are going to your checkups, and making sure that you're giving yourself the best chance. And you as a blood donor doing the Lord's work by donating blood. But otherwise, thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next video.